Dalton,
Sorry.
tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to Flock.
Yeah, so I started my career out in law enforcement I guess it's about 20 years ago now, down in Fort Worth, Texas. Spent a bunch of time in patrol, was a detective, supervisor. Started the Real-Time Crime Center down there back in 2012, I believe it was. And kind of, started my career off on a trajectory where I was really focused on technology in law enforcement. Found that I had a niche for that. I really liked it. Kind of saw where the future was going with that. And then I just happened to come on to this brand new startup out of Atlanta called Flock Safety. Saw them pretty early on and immediately recognized what it was as soon as I saw it. The first time I saw an image of, it was the very first time I saw an image of one of their pictures from an ALPR read, I called them on the phone. I said, hey, I don't know what you're doing or where you're at, but I need somebody to come up here and show me what you're doing, tell me all about it, because I knew it was something different. So long story short, got them deployed there in Fort Worth, had tremendous success with it, kind of got to know a lot of people in the company, and then saw the direction that the company was going, and I said, I've just got to be a part of that. So that's how I ended up here.
FlockOS, what is it? Give me your 30-second elevator pitch.
30-second elevator pitch. So FlockOS is what I consider to be the world's most sophisticated law enforcement public safety situational awareness platform in existence that integrates disparate systems, video systems, to essentially enhance what law enforcement does on a daily basis, make them more efficient, make them faster, which inevitably leads to lower crime and safer cities.
Why would an agency want to use FlockOS? And tell me a little bit about how that would impact the agency and the community that they serve.
Yeah, so there's really a couple of reasons why. As you know, technology is becoming more and more prevalent. I mean, just in society in general, law enforcement is starting to realize that. But maybe more importantly, or as part of that is speed. Speed is very, very important to the public safety mission. The greatest chances of actually catching somebody that does something wrong, that commits a crime, is in the moment that it just occurred, and law enforcement understands that. Inevitably, if you can effectively do that, that's how you're going to reduce crime. So a platform like FlockOS, it integrates all this different technology and essentially makes the law enforcement agency faster, more efficient at what they do, which, in the grand scheme of things, makes everybody safer, lowers crime, and things of that nature.
Dalton, is FlockOS an open platform?
Yeah, so I actually hear this question a lot because that's a big thing, especially as all these different vendors, are kind of coming into the space, the law enforcement public safety technology sector. And not only is FlockOS and Flock in general open, I think it's the most open platform in existence, and I'll tell you why. Because most people out there, most vendors out there that say, hey, we're an open platform, they're really half closed because there's two sides of open. There's I go out and I come in. Well, a lot of the other vendors out there that say that they're open, they only accept things coming in. Well, we actually do both. So we can take in other vendors, put it into our platform, but we're also happy to share it out because at the end of the day, law enforcement is most effective when they share with other law enforcement. Well, the same can be said of vendors, right? So it's incumbent on us to work together with other vendors and law enforcement so that everybody can be better at what they do.
Dalton, you mentioned that technology is widely adopted in law enforcement nowadays. So what if an agency already has a tech stack? Does that mean that they can still work with Flock, or are they kind of stuck?
No, they can absolutely work with Flock. So that was me a long time ago when I was in law enforcement. Every individual that runs technology or uses technology in a law enforcement agency, they have their preference on who they like. I like this person, this vendor because I just am used to using them and things of that nature. I find them effective. Well, obviously we would like people to use Flock, but we understand that people prefer other vendors out there, so we're happy to integrate into those things. But on the other side of that coin, we are also happy to take those things into Flock as well, integrate them into one spot to make them more effective so you can see all your cameras, for example. There's multiple different types of camera systems out there. It's very hard to log into all these different systems, so putting them into one spot makes you more efficient.
Walk me through a possible scenario where you have a city on FlockOS that has all those sensors out in the wild, DFR, live video, LPR. What does that look like?
Yeah, I actually want to take this in 2 steps, if you don't mind. So the historical response to this, and let's just say garden variety, a person gets their car taken at the mall. They leave it running, somebody jumps in it, and they steal their car. That person dials 911, and then that call goes to a call center, and then a call taker answers it, they set up a call, a dispatcher finds an officer responds maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, ideally, and then they take a report, and that's really it. That's a very antiquated way of actually doing law enforcement and public safety. So if you think about what you can do with technology in the modern day, imagine that same situation. A person gets their car stolen and they call 911, but except this time, a real-time crime center is listening to the call as it's happening live. So they can hear exactly what the person is saying. Somebody just stole my car, and this is the description of it, and they went this way. So they send a drone. So a drone launches, goes to that location. Now patrol officers that are out there on the street are also hearing this, and they start looking for the car as they're responding to the call. Then at the same time, they're also entering the plate into a license plate database. So you've got all these different sensors out there that are kind of working in conjunction with what's going on in the moment. And then maybe that car scans, on one of the license plate readers. And now all of a sudden, everything moves to that one spot. Drone goes that way. All the cameras on that street that are connected, maybe they're traffic cameras, maybe they're private business cameras, maybe they're flock cameras, all along that roadway, and now the real-time crime center's watching it, or dispatchers are watching it, or maybe even officers are watching this live. They're all responding. And then they show up, they make the arrest, they get that person's car back. That entire scenario is very, very realistic. That's happening today. Maybe it only took 5 or 10 minutes to do. So that's a truly revolutionary way of, performing public safety in a manner that's never been done before.
Sounds like speed is integral to public safety. How is FlockOS enabling officers to respond to citizens faster?
Yeah, so when you take a step back, citizens just want the best customer service they can get, right? Whether it be in business, if they're shopping, but it's also true of local law enforcement. Like they want to have good customer service. So they want things to be fast and efficient. So, FlockOS is built for that purpose, to improve efficiency, to make them faster. And if that's with Flock devices, great. If it's with some other device that we've integrated into Flock, great. And both of those are fantastic. So integrating all those things into one spot, giving it to patrol, to real-time crime center, to command staff, to dispatch, whomever, to use across the board to improve everything that they do, that's only a win for citizens.
So all this said, how can FlockOS improve a real-time crime center, or maybe even help an agency get started with one?
Yeah, and this is something I actually talk about a lot with some other people in the space. We don't necessarily think that you have to have a real-time crime center to be efficient at what we call real-time policing, right? It's always going to be most effective in that environment, but if you have the right tools at your disposal to act faster, to be more efficient with technology, you don't necessarily have to have the real-time crime center itself. So that's kind of what FlockOS does. It fills that gap. Agencies that may not want to spend $1 million on a room outfitted with TVs and looks like a NASA control center. Well, you don't have to have that. Just put it into the hands of your patrol officers and you still have the same capability as that large room. Now, that being said, if you have the room and if you're large enough and you have that need, then it's also built for that purpose as well, to integrate all those things together to make that environment more efficient as well.
Last one for you, Dalton. If folks want to hear more about real-time policing, where can they go?
Well, there's plenty of sources of information out there. There's National Real-Time Crime Center Association, obviously. There's different courses that are popping up. But, here at Flock, we've actually started our own podcast for that. It's me and Jamie Hudson. I like to say it's Jamie's podcast because he's just great. And I'm kind of the color guy, the comedian guy. But, we talk about real-time policing, have lots of interviews and things of that nature. So, if anybody's looking for information and they want to have a good time about it and kind of learn more about real-time policing, that's a good spot to go to, too.